World War I has often been called the Great War, and there's no question why. Of all the soldiers mobilized in World War I, statistics show that 57.5% died in battle. But what caused this massive and worldwide devastation? There were many contributing factors. However, one of the main causes was new technology. New technology developed before and during World War I greatly and gravely impacted both warfare and outcomes of the war. It was a result of the scientific revolution and rapid industrialization. The scientific revolution sparked new ideas and inventions that worked their way into the battle arena. Not only were new things being invented, they could now be mass-produced because of industrialization in the majority of European countries and the growth of the working class. As both sides raced to invent new technology that would give them an edge over their opponents, they plunged themselves and their countries deeper and deeper into destruction. There are three main components of new technology that contributed to the mass devastation of World War I: revolutionary artillery, trench warfare, and poisonous gases. First, revolutionary artillery played a big factor in warfare of World War I. Machine guns, rifles, and torpedoes were invented relatively close to the beginning. The Gatling gun, named after Richard Jordan Gatling, was invented in 1861 and was the first machine gun with back-to-back fire and automatic loading. This gun was soon surpassed. In 1884, Sir Hiram Maxim invented the first self-powered machine gun, commonly called the Maxim gun. Slightly different versions of this gun were used in both sides in World War I. With new artillery came the need for new protection. No longer could both armies simply meet up together on a battlefield and run towards each other, because the accuracy of their guns was too risky. Trench warfare was a defense mechanism in which the army would dig up trenches to shelter themselves behind. The problem with trench warfare was when both armies used it. There was no mobility, and the battles seemed to waste men with no apparent gains. In between 1915 and 1917 at the Western Front, for example, both armies ended up no more than yards from where they started. Trench warfare had greatly impacted how much territory each side had ended up with. Because the armies moved so little, they gained very little, and there were few significant territorial changes after the war. In addition to that, trench warfare has been used as a symbol of the futility of war. When soldiers would thrust themselves towards the enemy trench, it was much like a suicide mission. The enemy was almost certain to shoot them down. This scenario was likened to going to war because war also carried a heavy possibility of death or lifelong injury. The third significant advance in technology was poisonous gases. Although usually associated with the Germans, the French were actually the first to deploy gas in the war when they showered German troops with tear gas in August 1914. The Germans took this gas a step farther by creating poisonous gas. They used it against the French Algerian troops that had broken through their lines in the Second Battle of Ypres. From then on, it was a feared tool by all troops. Poisonous gas disabled the respiratory organs and caused choking to death in an unpleasant and frightening way to die. Spraying gas in the direction of enemy trenches was a way of advancing without losing significant numbers of men. Although it could be helpful to the user, poisonous gas could always have its repercussions. One always had to be wary of the wind conditions, or the gas could be blown back onto the user's troops. The British ignored this very important fact at Loos, where their attempt at revenge on the Germans greatly backfired when wind pushed their poisonous gas right back on them. More British were killed of poisonous gas in that battle than the Germans. So, how did new technology influence World War I? In short, it provided a much more efficient way and a quick way to kill, which made the effects of the devastation of World War I so calamitous. This destruction shattered positive and opportunist looks on the world that had been the norm before the war. People all over the world realized just how disastrous technology could be, especially when those using it had bad intentions.